Hey folks, it's Kyle here. Hello, welcome to the Dave and Kyle Show. If you are in healthcare, a working professional, doctor, pharmacist, otherwise, and not 100% satisfied where you are, you're looking to advance, think critically about your career and getting to that next phase, this is the place for you. David, you are currently a working healthcare professional, and tell us what's going on this episode.
Yeah. Good to see everybody. I'm actually at work right now. Um, so if you hear banging and booming, if I come off camera, you'll know why. So I guess I just felt the need to prove everyone that I am actually a pharmacist. So give everyone's a heads up.
Only
Um,
I believe you.
so today's episode is about getting a dual degree in medical school. Um, so how long does it take to get a master's degree? MPH, JD, a PhD, MBA, alphabet soup, GED, high school degree. Are these things even worth it? Is this going to get me promoted? So all great questions we're going to talk about today. So keep listening to figure out if getting any of these letters after your name will do any good for your career.
And thanks to our CE app sponsor, you can go to myceapp.com for free, manage all your continuing education and license renewals in seconds. So, getting another degree, we've talked about C's get degrees in this podcast, in this series. So, um, now we're talking about dual degrees, going a little bit above and beyond. Um, yeah, what are we looking at?
Yeah, so specifically, we're looking at should you get a dual degree in medical school? So, really talking to the physicians in the crowd. Um, and by dual degree, we mean while you're in medical school or even after your medical school and you're practicing physician, should you get MD, MPH, a JD, a PhD, an MBA, MPH? And what are some of the pros and cons of doing so, or even not doing so? Um, so we have a number of different options here that we'll go over, and that's the pager going off. So there's MD, MBA, here talked about, MD, PhD, MD, MPH, MD, JD. Now, obviously, these aren't the main ones, but these are some of them that this article talks about, and this is from the American Medical Association. Um, so just kind of running through it. So, MD, MBA, Master's of Business Admin, PhD, Doctor of Philosophy, Master's in Public Health, MD, JD. And I think that, again, this is just kind of what the article says in my interpretation. So MD, MBA might be great if you're trying to work in like administration, so be a director or VP of a hospital, or even start your own clinic. So usually takes about 5 years, so additional year on top of your MD to get that done. MD, PhD, this is probably the longest one, about 7 to 8 years. This would be great if you wanted to do research along with your traditional kind of patient care duties. MD, MPH, very similar to the MBA, but more focused on health policy or healthcare management, specifically different skill set that you get. MBA, I think, is more on the financials. This is more on the population health and knowing how things work in like a community and how to keep a community healthy. So also just plus one or additional years, 5 years. And MD, this one is a little bit more niche, but this one could be useful if you're pursuing health law or maybe if you want to be a lawyer. Um, so that one will need an additional 2 years. And then the article talks about, kind of the ideal time to pursue a dual degree. We'll definitely talk about that. Um, does it pay off in residency interviews, non-clinical career options? Um, yeah, we'll definitely talk about that. But first, I want to get your reactions, Kyle, to this alphabet soup. Do you think this makes for a superior doctor, or is it just another degree on the wall, another piece of paper on the wall?
Yeah, I think it's like any good question where the answer is it depends. Certain degrees, I think here having a dual degree at that master level does have utility, right? JD allows you to practice law. PhD is almost required in every um, research setting at academic institutions and such, if you really want to get to those sort of postdoc level and such. Um, and and it also, in a way, it shows this sort of concept of a T-shaped doctor, not just having the one, core set of requirements to go on the path that you have and the specialty that you've chosen and these sorts of things, but shows that you have interest beyond that. You want to go above and beyond, even taking it to an undergrad level too. Some of the people that I studied with on the medical track were doing dual degrees in other areas of interest, kind of showing that they have interest in these things, and want to learn. And I think those can be positive as well. Some of them are, conversation starters on a resume. Even if you study sort of some of these other things in undergrad, like like creative areas, you wouldn't necessarily put that on a resume, if you did like fashion design on the side, but didn't have a degree in it, these sorts of things. It wouldn't be a bullet there unless you did have a degree in it. So it can help kind of get in the door, open conversations, things like that. Um, that said, at the master's level, there's a lot of sort of financial considerations and where the ROI really is, to do that extra, year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it might be, um, to be able to get to that sort of level and have that letter after your name, or the extra letters there.
Yeah, I think what my reaction is, just to kind of play off of that in terms of ROI, is have the end in mind, right? So what are you trying to do? Are you trying to be a manager? And what kind of manager? Are you trying to manage in a hospital, in a nonprofit, in an insurance company? So all those things are important. Think about what career path you have in mind. One of my mentors in the past, I kind of asked him about, because he had considered working a job at the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration in the U.S. How I might go about doing that. Do I need to get a PhD, MPH? So he actually, we both went together on usajobs.gov and started looking at job listings. He's like, take a look. What do they require? And it didn't say anything about the degree necessarily, but relevant experience. What it highlighted. So I thought that was pretty enlightening, and it saved me definitely $100,000 getting more degrees after my name. So I would definitely recommend getting the looking at the end in mind. I think that would be a really interesting exercise for people hearing this. Look up the job that you want. Look up a sample job description for it, a generic job description, and the requirements, and see, do they care if you have this degree? Do they not care? Yeah, I'm curious more about you know, the conversation between having skills versus having the credentials, and what it
Mhm.
means for you particularly.
Yeah, and I think there's like the credentials, the skills, and the interest. If you, from a hiring perspective, right? As a leader, when I hire people, I like to see curiosity. Um, if you if you get a degree in something that shows, yeah, you have enough curiosity to be able to pursue it all the way through to graduation and such. But the real sort of test for me is, what did you do with it, right? Did you leave it at graduation and say, oh, well, now I'm a X? Or did you actually do something with it? Did you do more professional development? Did you get some experience, maybe work on side projects, get a job here and there related to these things? Um, without the degree, you can do pretty much all of those in certain contexts, especially uh, out of those, the set that you looked at, business is one. Right? This LinkedIn Learning, for example, you can do so many different things there. YouTube has a lot of content related to business and management and leadership, so you can do a mini MBA without needing to have that extra year in school, especially if you're thinking in the output of job context, leadership, things like that. I don't think sitting in a classroom is what prepares you to best be a leader and understand business. So that's definitely where I'm at. And I'm sure you're being called into the work that you do uh, right now. But yeah, that's and even tracing it back to undergrad too. That's important. Showing, yeah, you have these interests. Maybe you're getting a degree in certain majors and such, but what are you actually doing to apply what you've learned? Um, if you're a music major or history major, dual major, whatever it might be. Um, I've seen theology masters and such that combine that with a medical degree. These sorts of things that can be pretty interesting and show, yeah, great, you were interested in that thing, that point in your life, but what did you actually end up doing? That's really the sort of key takeaway for me is what are you going to do about it once you get that degree? If you do choose to go that route, or if you don't, do something anyway, right? And show sort of proactivity and curiosity in that direction.
Exactly. Yep. Yep. So it's not always about the necessarily, you know, the degree, but what did you do with the degree? And sometimes not having those degrees, but having something to show for it definitely could be a more of an asset. So
Yeah.
um, I put in the comments here, for those watching, kind of my takeaways from it and the different degrees, just because there's so many. But definitely, with the end in mind, MD. Oh, I can show my own comment here. So MD,
Mm,
PhD. If you want to do research as a doctor, MD, MPH. If you want to work as a health systems admin, JD. If you want to work on the legal side, or even branch out.
mm,
So definitely things to think about. Um,
yeah.
I think another thing interesting is if you want to get a degree early on versus later on. So I'm curious if you have any thoughts about that, Kyle.
Yeah, I always think it's interesting. My wife is probably going in to do a JD in law school soon, and we've had a significant portion of our career already being in our um, you know t- decade post decade of work experience at this point. 15 or so years in my case, and I think that coming back to school shows that you are actually really dedicated to that area and want to practice in that area, right? In my wife's case, she wants to practice law enough to sort of overcome the fact that she's going to be the oldest one there and has three kids, and all this sort of stuff that these other kids coming out of undergrad just don't have to deal with. So, um, and realistically, she's also going to bring that experience to the classes. She did that with her first master's degree as well after a few years of actual work out in the field. So, I think it's an interesting angle. It puts you at a different level too with the faculty. If you have that experience, you can kind of leverage that to build connections and use it to your advantage. I think once you do have that experience.
Yeah, yeah. I would definitely say, if you um, are early on in your career and you know what you want, getting the degree definitely is an asset. But getting it later on, if you want to transition careers, no harm, no foul. I would just say, my kind of takeaway is consider the cost of the degree versus the salary slash how badly you want that new direction, right? So let's say, if you're primary care listening to this and you average about 300,000 a year, and the position you want is, manager or director of primary care at, Boston Hospital System, and the pay
Oh,
is
good old BHS.
exactly BHS, yeah, and the pay is 350,000 a year, um, which is a little bit of a bump, but to get there, you want to get an MPH to show that health systems expertise, and the MPH program that you really want at BU is $100,000. So kind of weighing the cost of the degree versus uh, the salary of the new direction and how badly you want it with alternatives like you mentioned, right? I think we mentioned last week, could you get that kind of management experience for free, taking on responsibilities at your current job, or even just asking your boss like, hey, are there any ways I can get involved with more managerial stuff to kind of work my way up?
Yeah.
So I think that is definitely a consideration. The cost, especially since um, I think people who are working are more cost sensitive than people who are already in school and they already have
Mm-hmm.
hundreds of thousands in loans. What's another year, right?
Yeah,
So
just pile it on.
yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Any takeaways for you there, Kyle?
No, yeah, I'm with you. It's a lot of these things. I'm very much about the sort of checklist manifesto, right? If you're making big decisions in your life, think about what are the sets of things that you should think about. Some of it's pretty simple. Simple algebra to figure out, is it worthwhile financially, and kind of go through, do I care enough to lose money on this? Can I pay it off quickly so I'm not in debt, more debt for longer? And how would it affect my current schedule? How would it affect my ability to get into the job that I want sooner versus later? And maybe sort of go for option A and B before you seek a degree. Option C potentially, where you could actually get experience, get a job, that sort of thing. Let me take a quick pause. I'll say thanks again to the CE app for sponsoring. So you just go to myceapp.com. Links in the description. You can sign up, join for free to manage continuing education.
Yep. And if you like what you're hearing, give this video a thumbs up. It really helps us out. Click subscribe and the bell icon. Get our latest videos. If you're on LinkedIn, go ahead and click follow. Just clicking that helps support us.
Ooh. Any final thoughts, David?
No, I think that's it. I'm being pulled back into work, so I gotta go before they fire me.
Yeah, I'll let you go.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for joining in for another episode of Dave and Kyle. If you want to reach out to us, and you can go if you want, Dave. It's just me and my audience. If you do,
No, no, go
um,
ahead, go ahead.
so just reach out to us. Our email's Dave N letter N Kyle Show at Gmail. And if you want to join the online community we're forming, just click the link in the bio. We'd love to add you to the wait list and get you involved in the conversation. What is your experience if you do have a dual degree, if you're thinking about one, helping each other out with these sorts of resources and decisions. All right, thanks.
Awesome, awesome. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate your time and back to work for me. So. Take care, everyone.